honey, it's family hour. There must be something on.
Horror and science fiction anthology shows have been around for quite some time. They were originally on the radio, but eventually made the leap to the modern medium of television. The most famous early example is probably The Twilight Zone, created by Rod Serling. Since then, there have been plenty of other shows, including HBO's offering Tales from the Crypt, which is easily one of my favorite shows of all time. But even Nickelodeon got into it with Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I admit to watching almost every week. If you haven't guessed it yet, yes, I am quite a big fan of cheesy horror anthology shows, which is why I love an obscure little show called Monsters. Now, with so many different shows to choose from, you can be sure that some are great and some are completely unwatchable. Fortunately, Monsters falls somewhere in between. It isn't a great show by any means, but it is certainly a memorable show, if only because every episode seems to be absolutely ridiculous. We'll be taking a look at 3 of my favorite episodes of the series, and we're going to start with what is probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen on television, and it is an episode titled Glim Glim. The episode opens with some rather somber Christmas music. Christmas is a theme of this episode, which you will see as we get through it. Here we're introduced to our 3 main protagonists. There's this guy, who we will call Ham, for reasons you'll see in a second. And we also have a little girl named Amy, along with her father, who we will just call Dad. These 3 characters are the last remaining survivors of their hometown. It seems everyone has been killed by a deadly plague, which was brought by a horrifying alien creature. Our protagonists are currently hiding out in the basement of the library since it is the only place in town that still has heat. We also learn that the town has been sealed off by some sort of force field, which means there is no escape. To make matters worse, we find out that the alien is also hiding out in the library. Yes, that is our horrifying alien monster, which Amy has affectionately named
Glim Glim's talking again.
Glim Glim.
He's up in the reading room.
Now, even though each episode of this show was different, the actors always tended to be, well, rather hammy, as you can see.
Library. Of all place. Never even visited it. Now I'm living here. And that monster's upstairs every day to boot.
After a bit more exposition, we finally get to see more of our monster, and it is, not exactly terrifying. In fact, he looks like some sort of weird vegetable, or something your dog leaves in the yard after getting into the garbage again. I mean, it's just not scary at all, not even remotely.
So I must keep searching.
So you'll just have to suspend disbelief here for a second, and understand that Dad and Ham are terrified of Glim Glim. The same isn't true for Amy, however, as she doesn't seem to be afraid of Glim Glim at all. While everyone is asleep, she sneaks upstairs and makes ET-like contact with the alien. The next day, Dad and Ham decide to have a look around upstairs and find some mutilated corpses. Glim Glim suddenly walks in, and it was awkward for everyone involved. But poor old Glim Glim was just trying to learn more about human anatomy and didn't mean anything with the severed heads. Now, most monsters make terrifying sounds, but this one sounds more like a mouse from an old cartoon. Fortunately for us, the director has added in a voiceover narration of the alien's logs. Through this voiceover, we learn that the alien had actually crashed on this planet unintentionally. The bacteria in its intestines proved to be extremely deadly to humans, and so he threw up a quick containment field. His power is running out, however, though the entire human race has only hours left to live. We also learn that Glim Glim has been trying to communicate and is hiding in the library in an effort to learn English. The only problem being that his voice is too fast and high-pitched to make any sense. Yes, that is actually the problem. His voice is just too high and fast.
Where did you get those? Well, you were out looking for can openers.
Terrified from their last experience with the creature, we see Ham has returned from the daily raid with a few new toys. Now, why he would choose 2 snub-nosed revolvers instead of something better when he had a whole store to choose from is a question better left to the prop department.
Continuing ship's log for Scout 426 Cube 3. Night of 5th local...
In the next scene, we find that Glim Glim is getting closer to finding a cure, but is not any closer to communicating with the survivors.
That they learn to trust me, Kings. But with little success...
He's given up on speaking and has tried writing, but our earthly writing instruments just don't work for him. Oh, and he's also homesick.
And snow is falling again. Reminds me of home. Long to be back with my younglings.
Yeah, the idea of feeling sentimental towards this big rubber vegetable is, well, yeah. Oh, and he's also suicidal too.
Entire species would have to destroy myself.
Anyway, the next night, Amy gets up and decides to visit her big green friend once more. This time, he greets her with some scribbly lines, which Amy quickly realizes is him trying to communicate. She then comes up with a great plan to let Glim Glim point at letters while she writes. A few hours of alien Ouija board later, and she's gotten most of the story.
From Orion. Dad, the sickness was an accident, and you need our help to make a medicine to save everybody else. But what can we do? B-L-O-O. You need blood? How much?
Glim Glim tells Amy that he needs a little bit of her blood to help make the cure for the disease.
A little? Okay, I guess I could help some, but it'll take an awful lot of convincing to get Carl and my dad to come around. Friend. No, they'll never believe. You'll have to show them. But how? Hey, I know.
She also comes up with a secret plan to help Glim Glim introduce himself to Dad and Ham. The next night, Amy wakes up and goes to visit her alien friend.
Awesome, they gotta know you're a friend when they see that.
Who has a little present for her.
Your handwriting's getting better.
It seems Glim Glim is getting a little impatient and would really like some of Amy's blood right about now. Amy gives in and the alien starts extracting some blood. Unfortunately, Dad wakes up and notices Amy is gone.
Oh, God. Amy.
Climbs upstairs and... basically ruins everything. Dad then freaks out and goes to get Ham.
Don't think this was an accident, huh? Give me a gun. Come on, I gotta go after her. Come on. Carl, it's not time. Carl, he's doing something to her now. Oh, God. Come on, go.
Glim Glim greets them at the door and tries to explain everything.
What have you done with her?
But Dad isn't hearing any of it and decides to perforate the misunderstood alien. Look at this dramatic death scene. Glim Glim starts leaking and basically just falls over.
Amy!
When Dad finally finds Amy, we learn of their secret plan. I'll just let you watch this yourself.
You're alright?
I just plugged it in. Glim Glim made it to show us he's our friend.
It's the 24th. Christmas Eve. With all that's happened, you forgot.
Yes, Glim Glim's master plan was to decorate a Christmas tree and invite his new friends over. I'm not making this up.
Please tell me you didn't hurt him. Daddy, you didn't hurt my friend Glim Glim, did you?
As the credits roll, we see what Glim Glim was carrying when Dad killed him. Yes, it was a handmade Christmas card. So there you have one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen on television. And you probably have quite a few questions. But the most important question is, how did Glim Glim's intestinal bacteria end up infecting an entire town? Well, the only answer I can come up with is that he took a shit in the local reservoir. So yes, the entire human race has been killed by one giant alien turd. Well, this has been part 1 of my review of the Monsters television series. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my other videos.